Naruto. I have an attribute panel. Chapter 61. The next morning, before dawn, some members of the caravan woke up and started preparing breakfast for everyone. Tai also got up with this group of people. Even though they were in the wild, his daily training could not be interrupted. Tai went to a nearby forest alone, found an open space, and began practicing basic body techniques and swordsmanship. You performed advanced body technique practice, and your related comprehension has improved. Your advanced body technique skill has improved, experience +1. Congratulations, your advanced body technique skill has been upgraded to LV10 2000. You performed Hitaki swordsmanship practice, and your related comprehension has improved. Your Hitaki swordsmanship skill has improved, experience +1. Congratulations, your Hitaki swordsmanship skill has reached max level LV10, you have comprehended the skill, Sword Intent. Sword Intent. Infusing spirit into the sword, combined with one's own sword intent to pressure the enemy, causing them to fear, retreat, or become sluggish. In severe cases, it can cause them to fall into illusions. It cannot be directly upgraded, and its power is determined by the swordsmanship level and the nature transformation of yin release chakra. Congratulations, based on your comprehension, your Hitaki swordsmanship skill has evolved into advanced swordsmanship LV10 With the continuous system prompts, the two important components of Tai's combat power finally welcomed an upgrade. This improvement was significantly stronger than before, and a large amount of memories continuously emerged, slowly settling throughout Tai's body. Tai felt as if he was in a chaotic space, constantly undergoing body technique and swordsmanship training until all the memories were fully digested. At this point, Tai's skills in body techniques and swordsmanship could at least initially rival a Jonin. Tai, are you exercising? Sori, who had woken up, greeted Tai as he returned. But then she noticed something was off and stared at Tai intently. Tai, feeling a bit embarrassed by Sori's gaze, asked, Sori, what's wrong? Is there something on my face? He then touched his clean face. Oh, no. Sori, snapping back to reality, quickly lowered her head, her fingers awkwardly poking each other. It's just that I feel like you've changed a lot overnight, Tai. Your eyes are different. Tai understood a little after hearing this. He guessed that his body hadn't fully adapted after the recent breakthrough. I was just practicing my sword and had some insights. It will be fine after a while. Is that so? Tai, you're amazing. After a small interlude, as time passed, the caravan, like a giant python coiled in rest, gradually came to life. It stretched its body and, after everyone had finished breakfast, continued yesterday's journey. During this time, Captain Yamaguchi and Yohei also expressed their surprise when they saw Tai. But only Captain Yamaguchi knew that Tai's breakthrough might indeed be significant, otherwise his demeanor wouldn't have become so much sharper. Days passed, and by the fourth day, even Yohei felt bored. The repetitive journey every day had long worn away his initial enthusiasm for leaving the village, and even the jokes from his companions failed to capture his attention. Compared to Yohei, Tai, who had learned the shadow clone jutsu, had a much better time. Every day, he would send a shadow clone to stand guard while he either practiced nature transformation or tried to use his newly learned sword intent, making his days fulfilling. Meanwhile, Sori rode in Mrs. Ishihara's carriage. Ever since they first spoke on the first day, Mrs. Ishihara would occasionally bring little Ishihara to chat with Sori, and their relationship gradually grew closer. By the fourth day, the group finally left the land of fire and entered the land of rivers. We will be entering the land of rivers today, everyone. You must stay alert and vigilant. It won't be as peaceful here as the land of fire, Captain Yamaguchi warned everyone. Yes. X3. The caravan officially entered the land of rivers in the afternoon. Tai could clearly feel that the previously somewhat relaxed guards had become vigilant, and the number of people patrolling back and forth had more than doubled. This made Tai put aside his training and, along with his shadow clone, kept a close watch on the surrounding environment. Sure enough, not long after, the caravan was met with a sudden ambush. At the rear of the convoy, a dozen ragged bandits, brandishing tattered samurai swords, came rushing forward with a clamor. Without any organization or formation, the rabble didn't even manage to break through the guards' defenses before leaving behind 7 or 8 corpses and fleeing in disarray. Yohei was the first to discover the ambush, but he didn't charge forward. He was now standing aside, staring blankly. How are you? Are you alright? Taiyi's voice came from behind Yohei. Taiyi approached Yohei and asked, looking at his pale face. First time seeing someone killed. Yeah, and I didn't even kill them myself, and I'm like this. Taiyi, am I useless? Yohei said dejectedly. It was the first time Taiyi had seen Yohei with such an expression. Yohei usually had a goofy, cheerful look, so it seemed this incident had truly hit him hard. Everyone is different, and I believe this little difficulty won't defeat you, Taiyi encouraged. I'll definitely be fine. Yohei's emotions came and went quickly. Do you think Sori would be scared silly if she saw this? She always seemed so timid, Yohei said with a mischievous grin again. Taiyi looked at Yohei with a gaze that said, you're an idiot, leaving Yohei at a loss. It wasn't until Taiyi gestured that Yohei looked towards the distant battlefield. A young girl was helping everyone deal with the corpses, occasionally poking one and kicking another. It was Sori. Nearby, Captain Yamaguchi was watching. Noticing Taiyi's gaze, the two exchanged glances, and then both disappeared with a poof, revealing that they were both shadow clones. Yohei, left standing there, was clearly even more shocked. After a long silence, he too stepped forward to help Sori with the corpses, getting used to the bloodshed. The memories transmitted back by his shadow clone brought a slight smile to Taiyi's face. He could imagine Yohei's shocked expression, so he didn't stay to watch his misfortune. Half an hour later, the reorganized caravan continued its journey. But it seemed all their good luck had been used up in the previous days, as the caravan was attacked 4 more times throughout the rest of the day. Although there were no fatalities in the caravan, injuries were unavoidable. This inevitably made the atmosphere throughout the caravan even more somber. At this moment, in the middle of the caravan, Captain, something doesn't feel right. Is this frequency of attacks normal? Taiyi's shadow clone came to inquire about the situation. It's not normal. The frequency is too high. Even bandits wouldn't be gathered so densely. Go and inform Yohei to stay vigilant. Captain Yamaguchi also expressed his doubts. Yes. After answering, Taiyi walked to the rear of the team to notify Yohei to remain vigilant. The only good thing about these frequent attacks was that they tempered Yohei and Sori's courage. In subsequent attacks, both of them were able to calmly engage in battle and kill enemies. What surprised everyone was how formidable Sori, who usually seemed timid, became once she engaged in combat with the enemy. Her kunai danced, each move deadly, and her lightning release was overbearing and fierce. Taiyi and Yohei found themselves speaking more softly to Sori after battles, such was her intensity. This also made Sori feel embarrassed, and her 2 small fingers poked even faster. This kind of day continued for over a day. Just when everyone thought the attacks would remain inconsequential and began to relax their guard, the real ambush was about to arrive. Somewhere deep in the forest. Captain, everything has been scouted out. Just as the intel said, there's only one genin squad in the team. A ninja with a scratched forehead protector came to report. He looked like a Sand Village rogue ninja. A genin squad from the Leaf Village is always led by a chunin with 3 genin. In that case, we'll have no problem taking them out, the leading ninja affirmed with a nod. Apparently, he had forgotten or was completely unaware that the Leaf Village also had squads composed of fresh graduates, which could potentially be genin squads led by a jonin. So, should we make our move now, or wait a bit longer? The leading ninja turned to ask the black-robed figure who had remained silent by his side. The black-robed person wore a hood, completely concealing themselves, as if they were hiding from public view. We can't wait any longer. If we wait, we'll be too close to the city, the black-robed figure stated definitively. Attack immediately. All right. The leading ninja didn't waste any more words. He gave a signal, and 5 more ninjas emerged from the surroundings. They quickly adjusted their gear and headed straight to set up an ambush in front of the merchant caravan. Clearly, they were well prepared and knew the local terrain like the back of their hand. The caravan had been traveling for another half day. This half day had been peaceful, completely unlike before, when attacks would occur intermittently. Time flew by, and evening arrived. The setting sun still bravely stood on the distant horizon, reluctant to fully descend. The remaining sliver emitted a crimson afterglow, illuminating the land. Ishihara Masao was directing everyone to choose a spot to set up camp, and the tense spirits of the group slowly began to relax. Traveling was already physically demanding, and today they had been continuously attacked for most of the day. Everyone was a bit exhausted and eager to rest early. At this moment, Taichi, who was standing on top of a carriage surveying the surroundings, grew tense. It was evening, the time when birds returned to their nests, but it was eerily quiet all around. Just as Taichi was about to warn Ishihara Masao to be vigilant. Boom, 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 boom. 5 consecutive explosions rang out from various parts of the caravan. These were detonated explosive tags. Ninja attack, Taichi thought. At this point, the caravan was in chaos. The startled packhorses pulled the carriages in all directions. Although the coachmen tried their best to control them, their efforts were largely in vain. The guards' formation was also scattered by the runaway carriages. They were still trying to organize themselves, but the enemy wouldn't give them a chance. A large group of bandits rushed out from the surrounding woods. Their numbers were equal to or even greater than the guards. But bandits were just bandits. Relying on their numerical advantage, they could exchange blows with the guards, but against Taichi, they were basically cut down like melons and vegetables. After quickly dispatching a few bandit thugs around him, Taichi, holding his blood-dripping short sword, scanned his surroundings. Although there were many bandits, they only managed to fight the guards to a stalemate. However, the ninjas who should have appeared were still nowhere to be seen. This is bad, Sori is in danger. Realizing a possibility, Taichi quickly created a shadow clone to help the guards here, while his main body swiftly rushed towards the center of the convoy. The distance of over 100 meters, hindered by the chaotic scene, took Taichi more than a minute to cover. During this time, he also cut down many red-eyed bandit thugs. Indeed, from a distance, Taichi saw Captain Yamaguchi being entangled by 3 ninjas. It looked like 1 Jonin and 2 Chunin. Their gnashing teeth made them appear particularly ferocious, as if they were the ones who had been ambushed. Sori's situation, however, was not good. She was being besieged by 4 genin. Although she often forced her opponents to defend using life-for-life tactics, the enemies were simply too numerous. In just this short time, she had already sustained several cuts from kunai. Just then, 2 of the genin suddenly retreated and formed hand signs, while the remaining 2 skillfully engaged her in close combat. The 2 who retreated simultaneously completed their hand signs, then spat out a series of wind blades. Taichi, watching from not far away, saw his eyes turn red. Sori was entangled and unable to escape or dodge, and at this moment, these 2 found the perfect opportunity to direct the incoming wind blades at her. Taichi no longer cared about chakra depletion. He swiftly formed hand signs, water release, great water prison jutsu. A wall of water quickly formed around Sori, firmly protecting her in the center. The rapidly spinning water current also blocked the incoming wind blades. It was only then that Sori recovered from the despair of being on the brink of death, and her gaze towards Taichi was filled with gratitude. The 4 genin who had retreated were also startled by this jutsu. They had never seen such a jutsu before and initially thought a master had arrived. But when they saw that the newcomer was just a kid, they relaxed. 4 of them split off, 1 to intercept Taichi, while the other 3 continued to prepare to besiege Sori, aiming to kill this enemy as quickly as possible. Taichi didn't care who they were. Facing the approaching genin, he used a body flicker to appear beside him, and his short sword effortlessly slashed across his neck. Without even a second's delay, he continued to rush towards Sori. The fallen genin still had a look of disbelief on his face as he died, wondering how the gap between 2 genin could be so vast. The rogue ninja leader had already cursed out 18 generations of the intelligence officer's ancestors in his mind. They said it was a genin squad, but the captain was a jonin, and an elite jonin at that. They said the squad members were genin, but not to mention the little girl's strength, even this kid who just arrived was no weaker than a chunin. Sakata, Okamoto, you 2 quickly go and deal with that new kid. I'll keep this jonin occupied for now, the rogue ninja leader ordered the 2 chunin who were responsible for interference. Captain Yamaguchi watched as the two Chunin tried to disengage from the battle to attack Taichi. Just as he was about to stop them, the rogue ninja leader launched a desperate barrage of attacks, interrupting him. At this moment, Taichi, seeing the two charging Chunin, was also fearless. As he charged forward, he began to form hand signs, fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire. A barrage of fireballs, without any particular order, rained down densely on the two Chunin. Taking advantage of the fireballs obscuring their vision, Taichi created two more shadow clones. When the two Chunin had just dealt with the fireballs, they saw not one Taichi, but more. Taichi sent one shadow clone to engage one Chunin, while the other shadow clone and his main body dealt with the other Chunin together. No sooner said than done, the two groups clashed in an instant. Taichi's shadow clone, relying on its unique characteristic, rushed forward and blocked the Chunin's swinging kunai, while Taichi's main body performed a side step to the Chunin's side, and, hidden by the clone, quietly plunged his sword into his chest. Bang! This was the sound of the shadow clone dissipating. Bang! This was the sound of the Chunin falling to the ground. Taichi, in a swift movement, killed a Chunin. This greatly frightened the other Chunin, who quickly retreated, creating distance between himself and the shadow clone. For Taichi now, his taijutsu, being a level above Chunin, allowed his shadow clones to hold their own even against Chunin. After dealing with one Chunin, Taichi was about to go after the other when he heard the enemy Jonin shout, "Retreat!" The Chunin and the three genin, without hesitation, threw down a few smoke bombs and then retreated, using the cover of the crowd. After seeing his subordinates safely retreat, the rogue ninja leader also decisively withdrew without even uttering a threat. "Captain, I'm here. Sorry, hang in there." Yangping's shouts came from afar. It turned out that not only had Taichi dealt with the Chunin, but Yangping had also rushed over from the rear of the convoy. The remaining battle was without suspense. With Taichi and Yangping joining in, the guards quickly stabilized the situation and, in one fell swoop, killed off most of the bandits. This time, the guards no longer held back, even pursuing the fleeing bandits until they were out of sight before stopping. After repelling the bandits, Taichi and Yangping no longer bothered with the fleeing bandits. The two met up and walked towards the center of the camp. During this time, Yangping's face was pale but excited, as he continuously recounted the battle at the rear of the team. In his scarlet eyes, a single tomo slowly rotated in each. It turned out that Yangping had awakened his Sharingan during the recent battle, and in his excitement, he hadn't even realized his own transformation yet. Yangping was indeed Yangping. Even after Tai told him about awakening his Sharingan, he remained calm, as if it wasn't him who had awakened it. According to him, the Sharingan was merely an aid, one's own foundation was the true source of power. This statement even surprised Tai. He was truly an extraordinary Uchiha. The two rushed to the middle of the convoy, and Tai immediately went to check on Sori's injuries. Fortunately, Sori only had superficial wounds. Tai cleared an open space, carefully cleaned the wounds, and then used mystical palm technique for basic hemostasis and treatment. He then took out the corresponding medicine and bandages from his ninja tool pouch for the final dressing. After all this, Sori's injuries no longer affected their subsequent actions. At this moment, Ishihara Masao, with his wife and child, came over to Tai. Watching Tai finish the treatment, he asked with concern, "Is Sori Genin alright?" Upon hearing this, Tai looked up and stared at Ishihara Masao for a long time without answering. Yangping, seeing Tai's expression, also looked at Ishihara curiously. Ishihara felt uncomfortable under Tai's gaze. Just as he was about to ask, Captain Yamaguchi interrupted him, "Mr. Ishihara, shouldn't you give us an explanation?" What explanation is there? Ishihara Masao feigned confusion. AC rank mission, and there was one Jonin, 2 Chunin, and 4 Genin. Does Mr. Ishihara think this doesn't require an explanation? Captain Yamaguchi pressed aggressively. I also don't know why a convoy of grain would attract ninjas to rob it. Who could have predicted such a thing? Ishihara Masao continued to argue, but his flustered appearance made even Yangping realize something was amiss. I suspect, Mr. Ishihara, what you truly wanted us to escort wasn't this convoy of grain. Tai spoke up at this moment. Everyone looked at Tai in surprise, and Ishihara Masao looked as if he had seen a ghost. I wondered why there were two escorts not listed in the mission scroll. Tai pressed on. You had your wife and child deliberately strike up a conversation with Sori, which also had an ulterior motive, didn't it? Tai took a step forward. The previous bandit attack was also to confirm the strength of the merchant caravan and to find the real target, wasn't it? Tai took another step forward. The attacking ninjas didn't attack the escort team, instead, they attacked the carriage protected by ninjas. Tai stopped in front of Ishihara. Let me guess, our real escort target is Mrs. Ishihara, or Little Mr. Ishihara. Tai stared into Ishihara Masao's eyes, speaking each word distinctly. When he mentioned, Little Mr. Ishihara, Tai clearly noticed Ishihara Masao becoming particularly flustered. No, it's not like you said. Ishihara Masao hastily defended, we are just. Enough, Masao. Mrs. Ishihara, who had been standing behind Ishihara Masao, stepped forward. Everyone, I apologize for deceiving you. With that, Mrs. Ishihara bowed deeply in apology, but still didn't explain the situation. Madam, you don't have to do this. This was all my idea. I should be the one apologizing. Ishihara Masao saw his wife's actions, and unable to stop her or comply, he could only turn and frantically bow and apologize to Tai and the others. Tai and the others remained silent, watching, and even Sori didn't speak at this moment. Madam, if you falsely report mission details, we have the right to terminate the mission. At this point, Captain Yamaguchi, who was at the side, delivered a critical blow. Please tell us the truth, madam. Alas, since things have come to this, I will no longer hide it. Mrs. Ishihara sighed. My name is Ishihara Masami. Masao is not my husband, but my family's butler. And this child is actually my husband's illegitimate son from outside. Now it was Tai and the others' turn to be surprised. The relationships here were a bit complicated. As Mrs. Ishihara narrated, a grand drama of internal strife within a wealthy family was slowly revealed to Tai and the others. It turned out that the Ishihara family was divided into two branches, the main branch and the second branch. The current head of the main branch, the Ishihara family head, had suffered a severe injury during a merchant trip attack previously. Although he had recovered, he could no longer have children. The second branch took advantage of this to seize the position of family head. Under these circumstances, the Ishihara family head told Mrs. Masami about his illegitimate son. The rest was what everyone knew. They planned an outing to purchase grain, successfully picked up the child, and then used the excuse of escorting the grain to hire a team of genin from Konoha. They hoped to use this as a pretext to deceive everyone and successfully bring the child back to the Ishihara family. As long as the Ishihara family head had a child, the second branch's plans would fall apart. What do you think? Captain Yamaguchi pushed the question to Tai and the other two. Tai's earlier analysis had impressed him. Tai was not only strong but also exceptionally smart. In time, he would surely become another remarkable ninja, Captain Yamaguchi thought to himself. Tai and the others exchanged opinions, mainly because Sori had gotten along really well with Mrs. Ishihara and her child during the past few days. Madam, what I'm about to ask will affect our judgment of this mission. If we find that you are deceiving us, we will abandon the mission immediately. Tai's expression was serious. All right, ask away. Mrs. Ishihara was also resolute. Do you know the team of ninjas just now? Tai asked. Yes, they are ninjas frequently hired by the second branch. The leader is a Sand Village rogue ninja, and the others are all wandering ninjas. Mrs. Ishihara was now spilling everything, holding nothing back. They should also have one more person, who seems to be a special Jonin. But for some reason, they didn't come this time. The few people who heard this exchanged glances, all breaking out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, they didn't come, otherwise, they would be the ones fleeing this time. So, it means we might have to face a lineup of one Jonin, at least one special Jonin, one Chunin, and 3 Genin. Tai and the others were speechless. This lineup was a bit too powerful. Don't let Tai's previous ability to kill a special Jonin mislead you, that was actually due to the convenience of planning and surprise attack. If it were a true one-on-one fight, there's no guarantee that Tai wouldn't be the first to die. Captain, what do you think? Tai was also undecided, mainly because he didn't know the captain's specific strength. Sister Sori, are you leaving? Little Mr. Ishihara came over at this moment, holding Sori's hand with reluctance. Sori looked at the child's clear, reluctant eyes, and was also full of struggle. Reason told her that she shouldn't let personal feelings influence her teammates' judgment at this moment, but she truly couldn't bear to see such a young child head towards a doomed future. Tai looked at Sori's conflicted expression and turned to ask Captain Yamaguchi again, "Captain, do you think we have a chance to fight?" This question clearly showed a bias. One Jonin plus one special Jonin, I can barely hold them off. If you're added to the mix, there should be a certain possibility of dealing with them, Captain Yamaguchi answered cautiously, clearly fully acknowledging Tai's strength. Tai then looked at Yangping. What about you? Ah, haha, I just awakened my Sharingan, although it's only a one-tomo. I think holding off a Chunin-level rogue ninja shouldn't be a problem. Yangping said a bit awkwardly. But Captain Yamaguchi and Sori were surprised by Yangping's words. Yangping had actually awakened his Sharingan. Even so, we and they are at best evenly matched. To win, we still need to plan carefully, Tai frowned in thought. Besides, we don't necessarily have to confront them head-on. Everyone listened to Tai's soliloquy, all confused, except for Captain Yamaguchi, who seemed to be deep in thought. Deep in the dense forest. Since the rogue ninja captain left with his men, the black-robed figure had been waiting here. He had already taken off his hood, and if anyone who knew him saw him, they would recognize him as Ishihara Masahiro, the head of the second branch of the Ishihara family. As time passed, Ishihara Masahiro grew increasingly anxious. He paced back and forth, constantly looking in the direction the ninjas had left, hoping to see the answer he desired. Just then, a rustling sound came from afar. Ishihara Masahiro immediately put his hood back on and looked towards the source of the sound. The ninjas then appeared in Ishihara Masahiro's line of sight. To his dismay, two less people had returned, and the person he wanted was not among them. After the ninjas stood still, Ishihara Masahiro eagerly stepped forward, asking with a sliver of hope, "Aoyama, did you kill that little brat? How dare you speak?" The rogue ninja Aoyama said angrily, "What excellent intelligence you provided. I lost a Chunin and a Genin. What are you going to do about it? What exactly happened? Explain it clearly," Ishihara Masahiro said, somewhat impatiently, annoyed that a ninja couldn't get straight to the point. The Leaf Ninjas, their leader was a Jonin, and the other three were not ordinary Genin. We were caught off guard. Aoyama roughly recounted the events to Ishihara Masahiro, who frowned, secretly annoyed at the good luck of the main family. So what now? We can't just give up. Ishihara Masahiro said, unwilling to concede. Besides, you have a stake in this too. You wouldn't want the duck in your mouth to fly away, would you? There's no other way now. We can only wait for Koji to arrive. With him, a special Jonin, we'll have a chance of winning. Aoyama was naturally unwilling. The mission reward, which could have been his alone, now had to be shared with others. How could he be happy? Meanwhile, after clearing the battlefield, everyone regrouped the scattered carriages and personnel. After tallying the losses, they discovered that nearly half of their number had been killed or injured in the evening's skirmish. Ishihara Masao was currently there, meticulously working his abacus, calculating whether this trip would still be profitable after deducting compensation. Taichi watched from the side, shaking his head. At a time like this, he was still thinking about making money. He truly was a merchant. Mr. Ishihara, please arrange for the caravan to set up camp and rest soon. Everyone has been tired all day, and we need to speed up tomorrow. Good stamina is essential, Taichi reminded him. Yes, look, the recent fighting has completely muddled my mind. I even forgot about this, Ishihara Masao said with a look of regret. After calming himself, he immediately went to arrange the caravan's overnight stay. Watching Ishihara Masao walk away, Taichi went to his teammates. Mrs. Ishihara and little Ishihara were also there, which made sense. Where else could be safer than here right now? At this moment, Yohei was recounting his glorious battle achievements to Sori, how he had slaughtered everyone, and how he had awakened his Sharingan. He claimed that if the attacking ninjas had stayed a little longer, he would have captured them all. Sori covered her mouth and chuckled, and little Ishihara, beside them, gesticulated excitedly. Teacher Yamaguchi saw Taichi approaching and stopped the garrulous Yohei. All right, Yohei, everyone is tired today. Let's all get some rest early. Yohei, you'll take the first watch tonight. Taichi, you'll take the second watch. Sorry, you're injured, so get some good rest. Yes, Captain Yamaguchi. X2. Sori lowered her head and started counting her fingers again, completely losing the fierce bravery she had shown earlier when fighting 4 opponents alone. The night passed uneventfully, and the next morning, the caravan woke up earlier than usual. The sun had not yet risen above the horizon, but the caravan had already packed up and set off. Perhaps influenced by the previous battle, everyone understood that the fight was far from over. Just the few ninjas who had escaped were enough to cause trouble for the caravan, not to mention the possibility of reinforcements. So, everyone traveled at an exceptionally fast pace today. Calculating the time, if they maintained this speed, the caravan would reach Jinmatsu City by noon on the 8th day, at which point the escort mission would be complete. Today was the 6th day. If the attacking ninjas sent back word and waited for reinforcements to arrive, they should launch their attack tomorrow, judging by the timing. Just as Taichi expected, the entire 6th day passed smoothly, as if yesterday's attack had never happened. The caravan had a peaceful day, but everyone's mood didn't relax. Instead, it became even more tense. The heavens seemed to sense their anxious emotions, as a continuous drizzle began right after nightfall, as if to extinguish the burning anxiety in everyone's hearts with rainwater. On the 7th day, the fine rain continued throughout the night, showing no signs of stopping by morning. This situation was relatively rare in the Land of Rivers, primarily because the Land of Rivers was influenced by the weather of the Land of Wind, and its climate was generally dry. This weather, Taichi thought, was perfect for his water release techniques. He felt like laughing out loud, though he wasn't sure if it was good or bad for the attacking ninjas. The caravan set off in the drizzle, but today's formation was different. Captain Yamaguchi, along with Taichi and his 2 teammates, closely guarded Mrs. Ishihara's carriage at the very front of the procession. It was as if they were waiting for something, moving forward with determination, with no thought of retreat. Thus, when noon arrived, they encountered their long-anticipated enemies on the main road. The enemies, leading a large group of bandits, stood brazenly in the middle of the road, waiting for the caravan to approach. They were truly fearless, not even bothering to set up an ambush. This was a clear sign that fate intended their destruction, first by making them arrogant. Listen, Leaf Ninjas, hand over the child in the caravan. We are only here for him, and this does not conflict with your mission, the lead rogue ninja, Aoyama, shouted to Captain Yamaguchi. Sorry, I cannot agree. Abandoning innocent children is not the style of us Leaf Ninjas, Captain Yamaguchi retorted impolitely, showing no deference to the other party. You should think carefully. We have one more Jonin than before. Do you think you can stop us? In truth, they themselves didn't want to fight. Leaf Ninjas were not to be trifled with, otherwise, Ishihara Masao wouldn't have hired them to intimidate others in the first place. How will we know if we don't try? Actually, the moment he saw the enemy, Taichi had already begun preparations. He first used the carriage as cover to create a shadow clone, and then had the shadow clone prepare the hand signs for the Great Water Prison Jutsu. Just as negotiations broke down, Taichi launched his attack first. Water Release. Great Water Prison Jutsu. With the weather's enhancement, the jutsu's power was even greater. A wide wall of water immediately rose around the enemy, threatening to encircle them in the blink of an eye. Seeing Taichi's move, the enemy wouldn't let him succeed. They all used body flicker technique to evade, but they were a step too late. Taichi's Great Water Prison Jutsu trapped 1 Chunin and 1 Genin. This immediately reduced the enemy's numbers by 2, making the battle much easier. Aoyama cursed inwardly, upon seeing 2 of his men trapped. He immediately led the others to attack the Leaf Ninjas. The newly arrived Bald Ninja, in particular, immediately formed hand signs. Wind Release. Vacuum Great Sphere. Several wind blades attacked Taichi's group in a flurry, even including the carriage in his attack range, hoping to interrupt the Taichi, who was maintaining the jutsu. Taichi had finally gained the initiative, and he wouldn't let the enemy succeed. He also stood in front of the Taichi, and quickly formed hand signs. Water Release. Water Wall. A wall of water suddenly rose in front of him, blocking the incoming wind blades. At this point, Captain Yamaguchi also engaged the attacking rogue ninja Aoyama. Both fought in taijutsu, just like the previous day. Aoyama, as a rogue sand ninja, was indeed skilled and fought Captain Yamaguchi to a stalemate for a time. However, his expression showed that he was only barely holding on. He couldn't maintain this state for long. Yohei, on the other hand, had the upper hand against the two attacking genin, forcing them to retreat repeatedly and gradually move away from the carriage. Meanwhile, Sori was protecting the carriage and the Taichi, who was maintaining the jutsu, while also fending off the charging bandit thugs. Taichi himself was struggling just to hold off the bald ninja. The opponent was clearly a special jonin skilled in wind release, and his wind release techniques were exceptionally refined. Taichi felt that if it weren't for the weather, he might have already been defeated by the opponent's wind release. The various battles were locked in a stalemate, and everyone seemed to be waiting for the balance to be broken somewhere. Just then, a startled cry came. It turned out that while everyone was preoccupied with their respective enemies, a chunin had emerged from the nearby forest. He quickly dealt with the guards in his way and, before anyone could react, he snatched little Ishihara from the carriage. At this moment, everyone realized that not only Koji, a special jonin, had arrived, but there was also another chunin hidden in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity. Ha ha ha, didn't expect that, leaf ninjas. We are one step ahead. Ha ha ha, didn't expect that, did you, leaf ninjas? We're one step ahead. Aoyama, the rogue ninja, forced Captain Yamaguchi back with a powerful strike, then stretched his arm, which was tired from prolonged exertion, his expression of arrogant triumph completely unmasked. Before Taichi and the others, who had stopped at the sound, could speak, there was a bang, and the Taichi, maintaining the ninjutsu dissipated. The massive water prison immediately collapsed, and the two ninjas trapped inside fell down. However, anyone could see that they were already lifeless. The battle had lasted almost 10 minutes from start to finish, and these two were just ordinary wandering ninjas. In the high-pressure, turbulent water prison, they simply couldn't have lasted that long. The deaths of the two men were like two harsh slaps, landing squarely on Aoyama's face, who had just been extremely smug. Aoyama glared fiercely at Taichi, the instigator, his eyes as if he wanted to devour him. It's all this brat's fault. He ruined things during the last attack too. Wandering ninjas weren't as easy to recruit as bandit thugs. Heaven knew how much effort he had put into recruiting these men. So many had been lost in this mission, including two chunin. How could he not feel heartbroken? Putting aside his thoughts, Aoyama, the rogue ninja, composed himself and said to Captain Yamaguchi, "We've already obtained the target, so there's no need for the battle to continue. Let's call it quits here, and this child might still be able to live. Otherwise, the effect of a dead person is pretty much the same," Aoyama threatened viciously. He didn't want to fight anymore either. Continuing the fight would only result in more deaths, which wasn't worth it at all. After all, they were just rogue ninjas working for money, this wasn't about defending a village. Are all sand ninjas so shameless? Captain Yamaguchi scoffed. HMPH, I haven't been a sand ninja for a long time. I'm a rogue. Before he could finish speaking, another, bang, interrupted Aoyama, the rogue ninja. Suddenly, Sori, who had been by the carriage, transformed into Taichi's likeness, then vanished into white smoke. This was a sign that the Shadow Clone's chakra had run out. Shadow Clone, transformation jutsu, Aoyama said through gritted teeth as he saw this. It turned out that the Sori by the carriage had always been Taichi's shadow clone. During the battle, she guarded the carriage, and even when she attacked, she only dealt with some bandits, so no one discovered she was fake until she dissipated. That girl was actually fake, so where was the real one? The change in the situation had exceeded Aoyama's expectations, making his mind somewhat confused. No good, Guangtai, quickly check on that child. Koji, who reacted quickly, shouted at the chunin holding the child captive. But there was no need to wait for Guangtai to check. The little Ishihara he was holding also vanished into smoke with a bang. This was Taichi actively dispelling his shadow clone. At this, everyone on Aoyama's side was dumbfounded, followed by a surge of anger at being tricked. Their duck had flown away just as they were about to catch it, how could they not be furious? Time rewinds to the fifth night, the night of Aoyama's first attack. Madam, let Sori take little Ishihara and detour directly to Kanematsu City. Their speed will definitely be much faster than our main group. If all goes well, they are expected to arrive on the 7th day, Captain Yamaguchi explained their plan to Mrs. Ishihara. This plan was also proposed by Taichi, and it had a similar concept to Masao Ishihara's earlier idea, both aiming to deceive the enemy. Now that they've just hastily retreated, they definitely won't expect anyone from our group to leave the main force and travel alone. And we will use transformation jutsu to disguise ourselves as Sori and little Ishihara, staying here to attract their attention, Captain Yamaguchi continued to explain. By the time they call for reinforcements to attack us again, even if they discover the truth, it will be too late. Mrs. Ishihara considered the feasibility of the plan and readily nodded. She also knew that if the enemy attacked again, their side would not have such an easy time dealing with them. Captain Yamaguchi and the three others breathed a sigh of relief when Mrs. Ishihara agreed to the plan. Although they had agreed to continue the mission, they didn't want to fight the enemy head-on and lose their lives. Now, all that remained was to stall, not the death match it had been at the beginning. Then, madam, you should also pack up. We will come to pick up little Ishihara once we are ready. Captain Yamaguchi gave his final instructions, then led the three men out of Mrs. Ishihara's tent. Just as he was about to leave, Taichi, remembering something, turned to Mrs. Ishihara and said, Madam, don't tell anyone about this, including Masao Ishihara, understand? Are you saying someone in the merchant caravan? Mrs. Ishihara hesitated. Better safe than sorry. Taichi said no more and turned to follow them out. Soon, a figure swiftly left the camp under the cover of night, circled around, and headed straight for Kanamatsu City. Time returns to the present. Where are they? Where did you hide them? Aoyama, the rogue ninja, roared. Ah, haha, by now, they should be almost at Kanamatsu City. Yanghei was extremely pleased, as if he had come up with the strategy himself, incredibly excited. Looking at Aoyama and his men, whose anger was rising, Captain Yamaguchi didn't want to provoke them further. At this point in the battle, there was no longer any meaning in continuing to fight. It's over. Just as you said, your mission has failed. We have no reason to continue fighting. Continuing will only increase casualties, Captain Yamaguchi persuaded the other party. As Captain Yamaguchi spoke, Taichi and Yanghei also gathered on either side of the captain, adopting a stance as if ready to fight to the death. Aoyama was unwilling. He had put in so much effort, lost 4 subordinates, and in the end, it was all for nothing. How could he swallow this down? Leader, let's go. If they fight to the death, they'll definitely be able to take one of us down. Let's cut our losses in time. Koji, who was clear-headed at the moment, stepped forward to persuade him. Let's go. Aoyama, after much thought, finally gave up on fighting. Upon receiving the order, personnel from both sides also abandoned their opponents, retreating while remaining wary of each other. Watching the retreating figures, Captain Yamaguchi, Taichi, and Yanghei all breathed a sigh of relief. The opponent's lineup was indeed strong, and furthermore, an unexpected Chunin had joined later. If they had truly continued fighting, they might have suffered casualties as well. Fortunately, everything proceeded smoothly according to plan, and the opponent, having lost their target, eventually retreated. At this moment, everyone in the merchant caravan also understood their situation. The most dangerous moment had finally passed, and all that remained was a safe and steady journey. For a moment, everyone cheered with joy. Indeed, the rest of the journey was smooth sailing, not even a shadow of a bandit could be seen. The sky also seemed to know everyone's mood, putting away the continuous drizzle and hanging up a warm sun. On the afternoon of the 8th day, the merchant caravan finally saw Kanamatsu City in the distance, which brought many members of the caravan to tears of joy. The casualties on this journey had been too heavy. People who were laughing with you yesterday might be dead today, leaving behind only a handful of ashes. Upon arriving at Kanamatsu City, Taichi saw the welcoming crowd. Among them, Taichi immediately recognized Furukawa Sori, and little Ishihara standing beside him. Only then did Taichi completely relax. This mission was truly completed successfully. Without further ado, the head of the Ishihara family warmly entertained Taichi and his group, and once again apologized for the deception at the beginning of the mission, promising to inform Konoha of the specific details of this mission, increasing the mission rank and reward. Of course, Captain Yamaguchi handled all these negotiations. Taichi and the others took advantage of the remaining mission time to enjoy a day in Kanamatsu City. They bid farewell to the Ishihara family only just before the mission's deadline and set off on their journey back to Konoha. The morning mist had just dispersed, and Team 8 embarked on their journey back. It had taken them 8 days to get there, and they were in no rush to return. At the earnest request of Taichi and the other two, Captain Yamaguchi agreed to let them spend more time exploring along the way back. On the winding mountain path, Yangping enthusiastically waved his newly bought fan from the land of rivers. The waterfall pattern painted on the fan shimmered under the sunlight. I heard that Mirror Lake is just ahead, and its waters can reflect the deepest desires of one's heart. He exclaimed, tugging at Sori's sleeve, showing off the story he had heard at a stall yesterday. Passing through a bamboo forest, the air grew increasingly humid. The group arrived at the somewhat mystical Mirror Lake. This place was indeed magical. Mirror Lake here was like a mirror that could illuminate one's heart. But not far from Mirror Lake, a rumbling sound could also be heard. A few steps forward, rounding a mountain pass, one could see the source of that rumbling sound. A waterfall, 100 meters high, impressively appeared before their eyes. This was the thousandfold waterfall, as famous as Mirror Lake. Even before they got close, the deafening roar of the waterfall reached their ears, like rousing war drums or the neighing of 1,000 horses, stirring a sense of boiling blood. Yangping and Sori had already rushed to the bottom of the waterfall, experiencing its immense impact up close. Taichi stood before the thundering thousandfold waterfall, lost in thought, his fingers unconsciously tracing mysterious trajectories in the air. This surging water, falling from the sky with immense power, rushed towards the exit of the valley. It made him think of the essence of water release. Wasn't it about imitating the power of nature? The nature transformation of chakra was a very personal matter. Everyone had their own unique understanding of nature transformation. At this moment, Taichi also had his own unique understanding, the grandeur, vastness, and continuous flow of water. In enlightenment, water release nature transformation experience plus 400. Congratulations, your water release nature transformation has advanced to LV7, 262 1200s. In enlightenment, your skill advanced meditation has improved, experience plus 300. Congratulations, your skill advanced meditation has advanced to LV1, 214 2000s. Coming back to his senses, Taichi was filled with joy. It turned out that this was also a way to cultivate nature transformation, traveling more, observing more, appreciating the natural scenery, and experiencing the changes of various attributes within it. This made Taichi determined to travel all over the great rivers and mountains of the ninja world in the future. As dusk fell, they stumbled into a mountain village's lantern festival. Sori was invited by an old craftsman to participate in making Kawakami paper lanterns. With nimble fingers, she quickly wove a novel lantern, drawing gasps of admiration from the surrounding children. Yangping had already blended into the crowd, playing a bamboo flute in harmony with local musicians, his Sharingan activated, quietly mimicking the musicians' movements. On their last day in the land of rivers, the group arrived at a hot spring village at the border of the two countries. Amidst the misty steam, Yangping was animatedly recounting interesting stories from Konoha to new travel companions he had just met, while Sori carefully polished a lacquered forehead protector she had bought at the market. Taichi floated on his back in the hot spring, enjoying the rare tranquility, the low murmur of Captain Yamaguchi and the bathhouse owner discussing tonight's accommodation reaching his ears. As dawn broke, Captain Yamaguchi woke everyone up. They had had enough fun. Today they would set foot on the land of fire, and the rest of the journey would not allow for more leisurely stops. Everyone packed their belongings, ate breakfast, and then departed the hot spring village, leaving the land of rivers behind. Upon entering the land of fire, the scenery was completely different, with trees of all sizes everywhere. Without the burden of a merchant caravan, Taichi and the others didn't just stick to the flat trade routes. They headed directly towards Konoha, passing through forests and wading through water, treating it as a form of training, continuously pressing onward. One day, as they were traveling, the group suddenly heard the explosion of a paper bomb from ahead. Everyone stopped in their tracks, their gazes fixed on Captain Yamaguchi. At this moment, the captain needed to make a decision. This is the land of fire. Such a situation is a bit unusual. We'll approach in a combat formation to investigate. Everyone be careful, Captain Yamaguchi cautiously instructed. Taichi and the other two quickly shed their relaxed demeanor, following Captain Yamaguchi in a combat formation as they stealthily moved towards the explosion site. From a distance, they saw three sand ninjas surrounding a Konoha ninja, who was already covered in wounds, his left arm severed at the shoulder, the detached limb lying beneath a nearby tree. Do you think making a commotion with a paper bomb will bring someone to save you? The leading sand ninja said arrogantly. If you tell us where the intel is hidden now, you might at least die a quicker death. The Konoha ninja remained unmoving, apparently resolved to die. Captain Yamaguchi, who had already infiltrated nearby, assessed the strength of these sand ninja. 1 Jonin, 2 Chunin. They could definitely handle them. Taichi, hidden not far away, saw the hand signals Captain Yamaguchi made and immediately understood his intention. The captain would take on the Jonin, Taichi would handle 1 Chunin, and Yangping and Sori would work together to contain the other Chunin for a quick resolution. Taichi returned a received signal, then relayed the situation to Yangping and Sori nearby. After a brief wait, the team members had communicated, awaiting Captain Yamaguchi's attack command. Just then, the sand-hidden Jonin seemed to have lost patience and gave the command to his subordinate Chunin to kill. The moment the Chunin made his move, Captain Yamaguchi gave the attack signal, then charged first towards the sand-hidden Jonin. Taichi and the others immediately lunged at their pre-assigned opponents. The moment Captain Yamaguchi lunged out, the sand-hidden captain, hearing the commotion, roared, "Who?" to warn his subordinates, while quickly drawing a kunai into a defensive stance. But even so, he had lost the initiative. With a clash of weapons, the sand-hidden Jonin was knocked back by Captain Yamaguchi's charged attack, and was immediately met with the captain's continuous assault. For a time, he could only struggle to hold on. On the other side, Taichi was dealing with the sand-hidden Chunin who had just received the order. He chose him naturally, hoping that Taichi's strength could save the desperate Konoha ninja. As expected, Taichi did not disappoint. As he charged out, he drew the short sword from his back, which was now enveloped in a strong wind-style chakra, making it exceptionally sharp. The Chunin clearly did not have the powerful perception of a Jonin. After receiving the Jonin's warning, he only belatedly prepared to defend after seeing Taichi charging towards him. How could Taichi allow him time to prepare? After charging to a certain range, he moved horizontally in front of him, then suddenly used the body flicker technique. His figure instantly vanished from its original spot, reappearing behind the sand-hidden Chunin. At this moment, the sand-hidden Chunin hadn't even finished his defensive stance when a wound had already opened on his neck. Blood gushed from the wound, pumped by his heart, and it was clear he wouldn't live. It turned out that Taichi, using the speed of the body flicker technique, had directly cut the enemy's neck with his short sword, just as ancient cavalry used the power of their horses to easily slaughter enemies. Such a swift kill not only startled the enemy but also frightened the Konoha ninja nearby. The killing was simply too clean. Just then, 3 kunai suddenly shot out from a nearby tree, followed by another Chunin who attacked Taichi along with the kunai. Be careful. Watch out. Just as the injured leaf ninja shouted a warning, Taichi calmly deflected 3 incoming kunai with his short sword, then accurately intercepted the Chunin's surprise kunai attack, having anticipated its trajectory. Heh, I was waiting for you. I thought your sneak attack would come sooner. Taichi taunted the Chunin. The Chunin gritted his teeth, provoked. He had originally intended to ambush Taichi the moment he attacked, but Taichi's speed in killing was so startling that it stunned him for a moment. That brief delay caused him to miss the best opportunity. How did you know there was another ambush? The Chunin asked, unwilling to accept defeat. Ninja squads are always a captain with 3 subordinates, aren't they? Seeing that you were 1 man short, of course I had to be on guard, Taichi replied matter-of-factly. Then, he suddenly exerted force, using the advantage of his long weapon to constantly force the Chunin to parry, unable to focus on anything else. Just then, several kunai flew in from the side, shooting at the Chunin from different angles. The Chunin was already tightly entangled by Taichi. By the time he noticed the incoming kunai, it was too late. He could only watch helplessly as he was killed by the kunai, his eyes wide with disbelief even in death. It turned out that Yangping and Sori had already ambushed and killed their opponents and rushed over to help Taichi. After the three dealt with the Chunin, they all went to support Captain Yamaguchi. In fact, Captain Yamaguchi was also close to defeating his enemy. The Jonin, after being ambushed, was already struggling precariously. Seeing his subordinates die one after another, his mind was already in disarray, and now he was only thinking about how to escape. But the more he wanted to escape, the more he couldn't. After Taichi and the others arrived, his defeat was sealed. Taichi was the first to charge into the battlefield with his sword. Although he was still far inferior to the Jonin in strength, his swordsmanship alone was enough to overwhelm this Jonin. Taichi didn't directly clash with the Jonin. He simply used his swordsmanship to constantly create trouble for the Jonin, creating opportunities for Captain Yamaguchi. Yangping and Sori, on the other hand, didn't even get close. They just threw kunai from a distance, blocking the Jonin's escape routes. In this way, with the combined efforts of the four, the sand-hidden Jonin was unwillingly taken down by the four without a single injury. Indeed, fortunes change. The more enjoyable the chase was before, the more miserable their death was now. Sori, Yangping, check these four bodies and seal them into scrolls. Taichi and I will go check on the injured person, Captain Yamaguchi said, throwing a storage scroll to Sori. He then took Taichi to check on the Leaf Ninja's injuries. The Leaf Ninja watched Yamaguchi and Taichi approach, struggling to reach out and do something. Taichi quickly took a few steps forward and began to examine his injuries. Don't bother, I'm too seriously injured, lost too much blood, I won't make it back to the village, the injured ninja said with difficulty, there's information in the lining of my clothes. Alright, save your strength. You can hand over the information to the village yourself. Taichi, having finished his examination, unceremoniously interrupted the injured ninja. Then, the pale green light of the mystical palm technique lit up in his hand. Although the mystical palm technique is only a B-rank ninjutsu, it is a technique whose difficulty continuously increases with deeper refinement. As the medical ninja's understanding of medical arts and precision of micro-control improve, the requirements for performing this technique also increase, but the effects also become better and better. The injured ninja looked at the green light in Taichi's hand and was speechless for a moment. Seeing the age of this squad's members, he could guess that this was a newly graduated genin squad. Yet, not only were the members more powerful than each other, but they even had a dedicated medical ninja. At this moment, the injured ninja felt incredibly envious. Hello, my name is Shinkawa-sune. Thanks to you, I'm able to keep my life, Shinkawa-sune said a little excitedly. When we get back, I'll treat you to a drink. Ah no, I'll treat you to a meal. He had clearly forgotten Taichi's age. Taichi didn't answer him at the moment, focusing intently on treating the wound. Shinkawa's other injuries were fine, just superficial, but the severed arm was particularly troublesome. Taichi picked up the severed arm he had just retrieved and examined it carefully. Ah, if it's severed, then it's severed. It's good enough to have saved my life. I can retire early, Shinkawa-sune said, feigning cheerfulness. However, if he could have hidden the tears at the corners of his eyes, he would have been more convincing. Well, it looks like you won't be retiring, Taichi said after examining the severed arm, continuing to clear debris from the severed end. The light of the mystical palm technique continuously enveloped the wound, keeping it clean and active. Captain Yamaguchi and the returning Yangping and Sori watched Taichi's treatment of Shinkawa with rapt attention. None of them had expected Taichi's medical skills to be so good. After I retire, I'll open a small eatery. When you guys come to my shop, I'll give you a discount. Shinkawa was clearly still immersed in his own sorrowful world and hadn't come back to his senses. Seeing everyone looking at him with expressions like he was an idiot, Shinkawa finally understood what Taichi had just said. You mean, my arm can be reattached? Shinkawa stammered. Luckily, it was severed directly by a kunai, so the cut is clean, and not much time has passed, so the tissue hasn't necrotic. Reattaching it shouldn't be a big problem. Taichi's cold words now sounded like the most beautiful music to Shinkawa-sune's ears. Thank you, thank you. At this moment, Shinkawa could no longer hold back his emotions and cried tears of joy. Taichi reattached Shinkawa's severed arm, and the light of the mystical palm technique in his hand suddenly brightened significantly. He wholeheartedly focused on reattaching and suturing the nerves, muscles, bones, connective tissues, and so on in the severed arm. The light of the mystical palm technique lasted for an hour before slowly dissipating. By this time, Taichi was also drenched in sweat, clearly indicating that this level of treatment was no small burden for him. Alright, this is all I can do for now. This severed arm has been initially reconnected. You can't exert force yet. After returning to the village, stay in the hospital for a period of time. They will provide better follow-up treatment. Taichi gave his final medical advice. Let's go too. It's still a long way to the village from here. Now that we have intelligence to escort, we need to hurry, Captain Yamaguchi said. He then carried Shinkawa-sune on his back and led the way towards the village. Taichi and the others quickly followed. An hour after Taichi and the others left, two sand-hidden squads arrived at their battle area. After dispersing to check the various battlefields, they regrouped. Tengshin's squad was ambushed. The battle ended quickly, mostly one-hit kills. Tengshin Jonin was killed by a group attack, at least 3 people were involved. They left an hour ago, we can't catch up. Go back and report the situation here. When the gates of Konoha appeared in the sight of Taichi and the others, although they hadn't been out for long, they still felt a sense of apprehension about returning home. After completing the entry procedures at the gate, Masasuke Yamaguchi said to Taichi and the others, I'll take Shinkawa to hand over the mission. You all can go back first. You'll have a week of rest, and then we'll gather in the mission hall on the morning of the 7th day. Dismissed. With that, he vanished with a body flicker, not waiting for Taichi and the others to reply, clearly indicating that Shinkawa's intelligence was quite important. Well, everyone, let's all go back and rest. It's been quite tiring these past few days, Taichi spoke first. Well, goodbye everyone. X2. Clearly, both of them, having been away from home for the first time for an extended period, were eager to return home. Back home, Taichi stretched his body lazily on the bed, savoring the ineffable tranquility, and was momentarily lost in thought. Perhaps this was also why he strived to become stronger, to protect this peace and quiet. After resting for a while, Taichi perked up and began to check his status panel, tallying the gains from the frequent battles during this period. Name: Matsushita Taichi. Occupation: Genin LV4 12/600. Talents: Diligence makes up for lack of talent, academic genius, potent. Age: 8 years old. Constitution: 21. Strength: 20. Agility: 18. Spirit: 23. Chakra: 16000 16400. Attribute points: 14. Skill points: 16. Fire Release Nature Transformation LV7 581 1200. Wind Release Nature Transformation LV7 646 1200. Water Release Nature Transformation LV7 362 1200. Yang Release Nature Transformation LV6 539 800. Yin Release Nature Transformation LV2 124 200. Chakra Form Transformation LV6 697 1000. Chakra Control LV5 696 800. Skills: Advanced Taijutsu LV1 122,000, Advanced Meditation LV1 234,000, Advanced Kenjutsu LV0 321,000, Derived Skill: Sword Force. Evaluation: Although you just graduated, ordinary Chunin are no longer your match. However, you are still a genin. Ignoring the unreliable evaluation, this time, besides the 2-level increase in his rank, which made Taichi realize that combat was the best way to level up. The biggest gain was undoubtedly the chakra nature transformation. The progress made in just over 10 days was comparable to 2 months of hard training previously. This was not only due to the improvement from combat but also from a deeper understanding of nature, gaining new insights into nature transformation. The Hokage's office. As the key squad of this graduating class, Team 8's first C-rank mission certainly required a detailed report to the Hokage, especially since this mission was so bizarre and convoluted. Masao Ishihara concealed the true mission objective. After entering the land of rivers, they were frequently attacked by bandits. On the fifth day, they were attacked by a total of 7 ninja, led by a Jonin. During this time, Taichi saved Sori, disrupting the enemy's formation. Yohei bravely fought, awakening his Sharingan, and Sori single-handedly held off 4 enemies, delaying their advance. Later, Taichi saw through the truth and cleverly used a stratagem to deceive the enemy. In the final battle, Taichi killed 1 Chunin and 1 Genin, and held off an enemy Tokubetsu Jonin. He eventually forced the enemy to retreat, successfully completing the mission. On the way back, they encountered an allied intelligence ninja. Team 8 ambushed and killed 1 enemy Jonin and 3 Chunin. During this time, Taichi, relying on his superb medical ninjutsu, saved the intelligence ninja's life and reattached his severed limb. That concludes the full details of this mission. Below are my personal observations on the squad members, Captain Yamaguchi reported, his face serious, delivering his final briefing to the Hokage. Matsushita Taichi's overall abilities already far exceed those of an average Chunin. His taijutsu and ninjutsu capabilities have reached Jonin level. However, due to his young age, his physical condition prevents him from fully utilizing his strength. Furthermore, his mind is extremely sharp, and his perception and tactical thinking are also first-rate. His medical ninjutsu is also highly advanced. He is an all-rounder. Uchiha Yohei awakened his Sharingan during this mission, though it's only a single tomo. However, his foundations are solid, and his current strength is just barely at Chunin level. Unlike other Uchiha, he is more willing to communicate with others and focuses more on improving his own strength rather than developing his Sharingan. Furukawa Sori is meticulous and can serve as an excellent lubricant for the squad. Her strength is at the upper middle level among genin. Especially in combat, she is brave and formidable, completely different from her usual demeanor. That concludes my full report on this C-rank mission and my evaluation of the squad members, Captain Yamaguchi concluded. The Hokage listened to Yamaguchi's report with great interest, especially when he heard about Taichi seeing through Masao Ishihara's scheme and redesigning a plan to deceive the enemy ninja, which brought a smile to his face. Such a courageous and resourceful person was precisely the talent Konoha desperately needed, and even more valuable was that this talent was his grand disciple. Very good, Masasuke, you did an excellent job this time. Not only did you successfully test the squad members, but you also gave them ample training, the Hokage praised without reservation. As for this mission, the Ishihara family has also submitted additional information to us. Given that a Jonin squad was encountered during the mission, I will adjust the mission rank to A rank, the Hokage added. Finally, regarding the rescue of the intelligence ninja, considering the importance of this intelligence, it will also be recorded as an A- rank mission, the Hokage gave his final summary. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Masasuke Yamaguchi also looked pleased. He hadn't expected a C-rank mission to ultimately become 2 A-rank missions, which was a considerable reward even for a Jonin like him. Alright, you may go. You've been out for a long time and must be tired. Get some good rest now, the Hokage said with his usual concern. Yes. As Masasuke Yamaguchi turned to leave, he heard the Hokage's final instruction. Oh, and about the intelligence ninja, remember to keep it confidential, and inform those 3 youngsters to do the same. Masasuke Yamaguchi's heart sank. It seemed the matter was significant. He just wondered if it would affect their current peaceful lives. Yes. 1 hour after Masasuke Yamaguchi left, Danzo Shimura, Kaharu Udatane, and Homura Mitokado successively arrived at the Hokage's office. Clearly, a very important matter was about to be discussed here. Let's all discuss the intelligence brought back by Sanae Shinkawa. As the Hokage, he was naturally the first to speak. Chiyo, that old hag, has always been the main war hawk of Sunagakur. Her leading the delegation to meet the feudal lord of the Land of Wind, her intentions are obvious, Kaharu Udatane said after a long silence. It's a pity Sanae Shinkawa was discovered too early. It would have been great if we knew exactly what they discussed, Homura Mitokado sighed, clearly quite dissatisfied with the missing intelligence. Shinkawa has already done very well. It's commendable that he managed to bring back intelligence right under Chiyo's nose. Moreover, if he hadn't met Taichi's squad, even if he had survived, his ninja career would have been over. The Hokage clearly had a different opinion. It was unclear whether the latter half of his sentence was directed at Homura Mitokado or Danzo Shimura. Didn't Danzo's mouth twitch when he heard Taichi's squad? Clearly, the Hokage's sarcasm had gotten to him. In Danzo's mind, what the Hokage was actually expressing at that moment was, look, under my guidance, Taichi has already achieved such strength, and this time, he even saved Konoha from losing a Jonin. How can you have the nerve to say I can't cultivate talent? Homura Mitokado also stopped speaking, clearly knowing that the Hokage was affirming Sanae Shinkawa's contribution. Actually, it's easy to find out. We just need to pay close attention to the flow of supplies in and out of Sunagakure from now on, and we can infer their general intentions from that, Kaharu Udatane suggested. Then Danzo, I'll leave this matter to your route to investigate. You must understand the supply situation of Sunagakure afterwards, the Hokage instructed Danzo. Understood, I will arrange for indirect monitoring of this matter. Danzo readily accepted the mission. This was exactly what he wanted to do. But his subsequent words made the Hokage's expression turn grim. But Hiruzen, aren't we going to make any preparations? Iwagakure and Kumogakure have both been making frequent moves recently, and even Kurigakure isn't very stable. Sigh, it's only been a few years of peace, and it's starting again. The Hokage picked up the pipe on his desk, walked to the window, and looked at the bustling Konoha, puffing on his pipe. Smoke quickly enveloped him. Slowly acquire living supplies, being careful not to attract attention. As for other things, let's wait until the latest intelligence arrives. The Hokage's voice drifted out from the smoke, seeming so ethereal. Danzo pouted, clearly very dissatisfied with the Hokage's indecisiveness. Yes. X3. The three answered in unison, indicating that this matter required everyone's full cooperation. At this moment, Taichi, having finished resting, had strapped on his short sword and walked onto the streets of Konoha. Having witnessed the customs of the land of rivers, Taichi felt that Konoha had become even more beautiful upon his return. This was not only because Taichi grew up in Konoha, but also because of Konoha's peace and prosperity. You can never imagine what it feels like to look up while walking and encounter a robbery. You will also never understand the impact of having one side of a street bustling with activity while the other side is like purgatory, just a street away. You will never know the sorrow of people having to sell their children due to hunger, even though the land is full of crops. This was the difference between the land of rivers and the land of fire, and also Taichi's feelings upon his return. Looking at the continuous flow of people, everyone smiling as they passed Taichi, this gave Taichi greater motivation to improve his strength, because all of this was what he had to protect. In a state of enlightenment, the blade struck for protection has greater power, and the intent of protection is added to the blade's momentum, making the enemy feel an indomitable force. In a state of enlightenment, your skill, advanced swordsmanship, experience plus 300. The small forest in Konoha was the training ground where Tai and his friends used to practice after school before he graduated. Upon arriving at the small forest, Tai was surprised to find Might Guy training there. He watched as Guy repeatedly punched a thick tree, each blow causing the tree to shake violently, and leaves to fall continuously. Guy, if you keep hitting it, this tree is going to break. You'll need a thicker one, Tai shouted to Might Guy from a distance. After not seeing him for a few months, Tai felt incredibly excited to see Guy again. Hearing the voice, Guy abruptly turned his head. When he saw it was Tai, he rubbed his eyes hard, as if afraid he was hallucinating. Tai, it's really you. Guy quickly rushed over to Tai. Ah, haha, youth really doesn't disappoint me. Seeing you, my blood is boiling. Watching the overly excited Guy, Tai, despite already understanding his hot-blooded theory, still broke out in a cold sweat. Alright, Guy, how have you been lately? How are the others in the class? Tai quickly changed the subject. According to their usual habits, if he let Guy continue, a challenge would surely follow. But Tai had just expended a lot of chakra to save Sanae Shinokawa and rushed back to Konoha. He hadn't recovered much by now, so he had no energy for a challenge. Everyone's doing great. Oh, by the way, Tai, we're having a get-together tomorrow, and Kakashi will be there too. We were just regretting that you weren't around, but it turns out you can make it. Guy happily invited Tai, completely unaware that Tai had steered him off topic. Huh, no class tomorrow? Tai asked, a bit surprised. Tomorrow's the weekend. Now it was Guy's turn to be surprised. Pop. Tai slapped his forehead. How long had it been since he left school? He'd already forgotten about this. I forgot today was a day off. No problem, I'll definitely be there tomorrow, Tai replied confidently. Where are we meeting tomorrow? Outside the gate of the Forest of Death, 9 a.m. tomorrow. With that, he didn't wait for Tai's reply and ran off like a flash. I'm going to tell everyone the good news and make them happy. His voice drifted back from afar. Seriously, are my classmates that brave now? The Forest of Death isn't a safe place. I hope they really just stay outside the Forest of Death, Tai thought to himself. However, thinking that they had also invited Kakashi, the problem shouldn't be too big. Moreover, he would be going with them now. Understanding all this, Tai no longer dwelled on the matter and began practicing his sword skills in the small forest, hoping to raise his advanced swordsmanship to LV1, which is Jonin level, as soon as possible. Your advanced swordsmanship practice has improved your related comprehension. Your skill advanced swordsmanship has improved, experience +1. You focused on practicing advanced swordsmanship, genin profession experience +1. Indeed, advanced skills are too difficult to improve through training alone. He only gained 1 point of experience in half a day. It still requires actual combat or enlightenment. The next day, before the morning mist had fully dispersed, sounds of laughter and chatter already echoed from the edge of the Forest of Death. Might Guy, carrying a bulging picnic bag, charged ahead. Obito and Rin stumbled behind, carrying a bamboo basket full of rice balls. Shizune held her homemade desserts, and even the usually steady Shikamaru was being handed a pile of ingredients by Asuma. Choji Akamichi, despite being laden with bags, kept stuffing potato chips into his mouth. Look, it's Tai and Kakashi. Before they even arrived, Guy's voice could be heard from afar. Tai and Kakashi, who were chatting, both stood up and looked in the direction the group was coming from. It turned out Tai was worried about something happening to everyone at the Forest of Death, so he arrived much earlier. When he got there, Kakashi had already arrived. The two met and exchanged a smile, everything understood without words. Following Guy's pointing finger, everyone saw Tai and Kakashi waiting under a tree and were overjoyed, quickening their pace to run towards them. They hadn't seen each other for several months, and Kakashi hadn't been seen for over a year. Although partings are common for ninjas, they were still just children. After catching up, everyone began setting up the picnic equipment under the direction of Tai and Kakashi. Tai and Guy quickly set up the barbecue grill. Kakashi and Obito, those two rivals, worked together to erect a tent, not forgetting to bicker a bit in between. By the river, Asuma, Kurenai, Shizune, and Rin Nohara were washing ingredients, with Kurenai's delicate laughter occasionally drifting over. At the edge of the forest, Shikamaru, Choji, and Shino were gathering dry branches for the barbecue. Everyone contributed their part, and soon everything was ready. Obito volunteered to take on the grilling task. Everyone laughed and let him try, and the result was predictable. A flustered Obito either knocked over the oil bottle or spilled seasonings, and later created so much black smoke that not only did no one get to eat anything, but a large amount of ingredients were wasted. Ha ha ha, Obito, you're a big calico cat. Blushing, Obito gave up his spot amidst everyone's laughter. Finally, Tai took over the grilling, as his cooking skills were top-notch, and not a few people present had tasted his food. He skillfully flipped the ingredients on the grill, brushing on oil one moment and sprinkling seasoning the next. In just a moment, a rich aroma wafted through the air, making everyone's mouths water. Tai looked at the ingredients they had brought. Since Obito had wasted quite a bit earlier, there wasn't enough now. Obito, go catch some fish by the river. We don't have enough food. Obito, his face covered in black ash, scratched his head sheepishly, knowing it was all his fault. Without a word, he went to the river to catch fish. We'll go too, there's strength in numbers. Kakashi, Guy, and Asuma also greeted each other and got up to help. Rin and Shizune came over to Tai, occasionally handing him ungrilled ingredients and putting the grilled ones into a thermal container. Choji Akamichi had long been so captivated by the aroma of Tai's barbecue that he couldn't move. He stood by the grill, drooling. If Shikamaru and Shino hadn't held him back, he would have already grabbed some to eat. Tai skillfully flipped the barbecue, chatting occasionally with Rin and Shizune who were helping him about recent interesting things. From the side, Choji's swallowing sounds could be heard from time to time, and whenever this happened, Shikamaru and Shino felt an urge to turn and leave, finding it too embarrassing. A plop sound of splashing water drew everyone's attention. They looked up and saw Obito had fallen into the water. What's wrong with you guys? Is Obito taking a bath? Tai shouted to them, laughing. Nothing, nothing, Obito's practicing water walking. Asuma interjected, egging him on. He's just not skilled enough yet. Everyone burst into laughter again. It turned out that Obito, seeing Kakashi and Asuma able to stand directly on the water to spear fish, felt a strong urge to try it himself and actively attempted water walking to catch fish. The result was predictable, but Obito was not one to give up easily. He tried again and again, his clothes completely soaked, but he didn't give up. Soon, Kakashi, Asuma, and Guy returned with their catches to Tai, while only Obito stubbornly continued practicing water walking and fishing. Why don't you guys help Obito? Rin Nohara said, not without blame, as she watched them return. Haha, youth can't give up so easily. Obito is awesome. Guy showed his standard big white teeth. Besides, look what this is. With that, he pulled out a few more fish from behind his back. It turned out everyone had already caught Obito's share of fish too. Ha, 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 everyone looked at each other and smiled, savoring the warm friendship of the moment. Everyone helped out, cleaning the caught fish before handing them to Tai to grill, all the while chatting and laughing. Obito, stop fishing, come over and eat the barbecue. If you don't come now, Tai's barbecue will all be eaten up. Obito, stop messing around and come eat some barbecue. If you don't hurry, Tai's BBQ will all be gone. Guy shouted at Obito, who was still struggling. Obito, hearing the shout, visibly paused, seemingly torn between enjoying Tai's delicious food and continuing to practice his tree climbing. In the end, Tai's barbecue won out. Obito quickly jumped ashore, tidied himself up, and ran to join everyone for the barbecue. Obito, you have to practice tree climbing slowly. You can't get fat in one bite, Tai told Obito, then turned to ask Chodo Akamichi, right, Chodo? Haha. Everyone burst into good-natured laughter. That's right, I got this way through accumulation over time. And Tai, I'm not fat, I'm well built. Chodo Akamichi's mouth was non-stop, yet he still managed to retort to Tai's words. Everyone ate and chatted, occasionally asking Tai and Kakashi about their daily lives as genin. Kakashi, having been a genin for a longer time, had many stories to tell. Tai could only pick out some interesting incidents from his missions to share with the group. So that means after becoming a genin, we have to complete a certain number of D-rank missions before we can take on higher-ranked ones. Obito said, clearly displeased. Are D-rank missions all small tasks within the village, or are there any that require leaving the village? Shizune also chimed in with a question. The village arranges these missions for a reason. Genin need to familiarize themselves with mission procedures and learn to work together as a team. All of this takes time, you can't be overly ambitious. Tai analyzed the pros and cons. As everyone chatted and laughed, Asuma unknowingly moved closer to Kurenai. Obito and Kakashi started bickering again, and the Nara, Akamichi, and Yamanaka trio lay on the side, digesting their food. Just then, Rin sat down next to Tai and looked at him, remaining silent for a long time. Tai, seeing Rin's hesitant expression, asked, Rin, is there anything I can help you with? Just say it. Listening to Tai's gentle words, Rin no longer hesitated. Tai, what do you think? If I graduate like this, will I have a good future? Tai initially didn't understand what Rin was trying to express, but after a moment of thought, he realized, Rin, are you worried? Yes. Rin admitted frankly, although you and Kakashi haven't mentioned any dangerous missions, I know that missions can't always be interesting. Rather, danger is the norm for missions. At this moment, Shizune also came closer, looking at Tai with an inquiring gaze. Evidently, she had overheard Tai and Rin's conversation. Tai looked at Rin and Shizune, thinking about their future and what they would encounter. Shizune was fortunate to have Tsunade as a powerful backer and lived until the future. However, Nohara Rin's fate was quite tragic. She was ultimately manipulated by Uchiha Madara, and to avoid implicating Konoha, she was forced to end her own life at Kakashi's hands, which in turn led to the tragedies of Kakashi and Obito. Thinking about these things, Tai couldn't help but look at Rin with a touch of pity, which made Rin unconsciously shift her body. Noticing Rin's movement, Tai composed himself and said, "This is just my personal humble opinion. Rin and Shizune, neither of you stands out in terms of physical fitness, but I've noticed that your chakra control is exceptionally good. You two might consider spending more time researching medical ninjutsu. Gradually develop in the direction of medical ninjas, because medical ninjas are specialized talents, and if you achieve something, the village will certainly value you." Shizune pondered this. Tai's suggestion was the same as Tsunade's, which made her understand herself better. Rin, however, looked a bit troubled. She had no ninja lineage, being just a child from an ordinary family. Her expression grew somewhat dim at the thought. Tai understood Rin's expression. After all, they had been classmates for 2 years, and Rin was a warm-hearted person who often helped Tai in the past. Tai naturally couldn't bear to see Rin's future turn out so tragically. How about this? I also know some medical ninjutsu. I'll go back and write down my experiences and insights from the past 2 years, and then give a copy to each of you. Tai naturally couldn't show favoritism. If he was going to give, it would be one for each. Thank you so much, Tai. I don't even know how to thank you. Rin was overjoyed. She knew Tai's medical skills were not simple. For the past 2 years, Tai had interned at the hospital every holiday, and the doctors there praised him endlessly. This gift from Tai was incredibly significant to her. We're good friends, aren't we? Besides, didn't you always help me in school? Tai replied with a smile. Just then, the sound of Kakashi and Obito arguing came from not too far away. Tai looked over. Those two clowns were arguing again at the entrance of the Forest of Death, for who knows what reason. Let's go take a look. Tai said to Rin and Shizune. The three of them stood up and walked towards Kakashi and the others. As they got closer, they heard clearly that Obito and Asuma, having nothing better to do, were egging everyone on to venture into the Forest of Death. Kakashi, of course, disagreed. He and Tai had come early in the morning precisely to prevent them from breaking into the Forest of Death. How could he possibly take them in now? Obito, seeing that Tai and the others had also arrived, became even more excited. Kakashi, you and Tai have been genin for so long, your strength must have improved greatly. With you two here, plus so many of us, what danger can't we handle? Well, Obito even flattered Kakashi to get into the Forest of Death. Besides, we're just going to wander around the outer perimeter of the Forest of Death. It's not that dangerous, Obito continued, or are you saying, Kakashi, that you're scared? Obito stared at Kakashi with a suspicious look, trying to provoke him. Kakashi, being only 7 years old, couldn't stand being provoked by his rival, Obito. He immediately nodded and agreed. But as soon as he agreed, he regretted it and couldn't help but look at Tai, hoping Tai would object. Tai had indeed intended to object, but Rin's situation earlier changed his mind. His companions had too little experience in school. Now, under his and Kakashi's supervision, some practical experience, even if a bit dangerous, was worth the risk. Kakashi, it's fine. We'll just watch over them carefully. Consider it an early training for everyone, Tai said, winking at Kakashi. All right. Seeing that the only 2 ninjas present agreed, everyone was very happy. After all, they were all future ninjas and did not lack adventurous spirit and courage. They decided that Tai and Kakashi would serve as the ultimate safeguards. Unless they encountered an insurmountable danger, all other explorations would be completed by Obito, Asuma, and the others themselves. The group divided their roles and then climbed over the barbed wire, entering the Forest of Death. Sunlight filtered through the branches, dappling the fallen leaves. The unique damp scent of the Forest of Death, mixed with the smell of moss, filled their nostrils. Obito led the way, pushing aside dangling vines. The Ino Shika Cho trio followed closely behind, while Guy and Asuma brought up the rear. The 3 girls, kunai in hand, walked in the middle of the team, ready to provide support. Tai and Kakashi, one on each side, moved through the trees, prepared for anything, their short swords already drawn 3 inches from their sheaths. Along the way, they stumbled and bumbled, creating many humorous moments, but they also learned a lot of knowledge not found in textbooks, such as how to identify herbs and how to interpret tracks. These things required practical experience. Rustle, rustle. The crisp sound of breaking twigs instantly tensed everyone's backs. Guy sharply turned, adopting the leaf whirlwind stance, while a shuriken slid into Obito's palm. Suddenly, the bushes ahead shook violently, and a nearly 2-meter-tall grayish-brown wild boar burst out, its tusks adorned with rotten leaves and debris, charging straight for the center of the team. Scatter! Obito's shout and the wild boar's roar exploded simultaneously. Shizune was dragged by Rin, rolling towards a tree trunk on the right, as Choji Akamichi's chip bag arced through the air towards the charging wild boar. The wild boar's hind hooves kicked up large clumps of mud, its crimson eyes fixed on Obito, who was brandishing a kunai. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Asuma's hand signs produced a fireball that grazed the wild boar's back, flying off, and the smell of scorching flesh only further agitated the beast. Obito seized the opportunity to leap onto a tree branch, but his kunai, due to his trembling arm, embedded itself in the mud on the boar's rump. You stupid pig, look over here. Guy suddenly charged from the flank, delivering a fierce whip kick to the base of the tusks. The wild boar's head was violently knocked askew, its tusks scraping against Guy's shin guards, producing dazzling sparks. The abdomen. Shikamaru's warning was mixed with the crashing sound of falling trees. The wild boar broke through a bowl-sized birch tree and changed direction. Shikamaru's shadow imitation technique had just taken shape when the boar ran out of its range. In a critical moment, Asuma rushed forward selflessly, kicking the wild boar's head, causing it to stumble, while he himself was thrown to the ground by the powerful recoil. Partial expansion jutsu. At the crucial moment, Choji delivered an enlarged punch that brought the wild boar to its knees, and Rin seized the chance to throw a rope dart, entangling its hind legs. The wild boar furiously thrashed its body, pulling Rin completely off her feet. Let go. The instant Shizune drew her kunai and cut the rope, Obito leapt down from a 5-meter-high treetop, his kunai accurately piercing the wild boar's right eye. A piercing shriek made the leaves rustle and fall, and the maddened beast charged towards the rock wall, with Obito still on its head. Seeing this, Taichi no longer waited, pushing off a tree trunk and pouncing through the air, his chakra-infused fist heavily smashing into the wild boar's nasal bridge. The sound of bones shattering was clearly audible. The wild boar stumbled and crashed into a moss-covered boulder. Obito seized the opportunity to roll away, the back of his clothes largely torn. Earth style. Earth pillar. Asuma clapped his hands on the ground, and rising stone pillars trapped the wild boar's hind hooves. Kakashi also directly attacked, his blade sinking 3 inches into the wild boar's throat, and at that moment, Guy's sweeping kick struck the wild boar's head. Under this blow, Kakashi's short blade penetrated another inch. Under the double assault, the wild boar crashed to the ground, its tusks deeply embedded in the mud, struggling for a moment before finally ceasing to move. In the silence, only their heavy breathing remained. Obito slumped against a tree root, checking the scrapes on his elbow. Rin's braid was half undone, and Taichi was using Mystic Palm Jutsu to treat Guy's bruised shin. The wild boar's blood gradually spread in dark red patterns across the pile of dead leaves. Extra meal tonight. Taichi kicked the wild boar's thick hind leg, and Obito immediately jumped up, clamoring for grilled ribs. The girls frowned at the ferocious beast, while Choji Akamichi had already pulled out a spice bottle, eager to get started. As dusk began to fall, smoke once again wafted from the clearing by the stream outside the Forest of Death. Taichi sliced the wild boar's hind leg meat into uniform thin slices, the lean and fatty marbling shimmering brightly in the campfire's glow. Obito had finally caught the big fish he'd missed during the day and was excitedly grilling it himself. Kakashi silently flipped the ribs skewered on his kunai, oil dripping into the fire with crackling sounds. This burnt piece is for the dead last. Kakashi suddenly tossed a charred piece of meat to Obito. You did that on purpose, you white-haired freak. The two began to bicker again, clearly in good spirits. As moonlight climbed above the treetops, everyone lay sprawled around the still warm campfire. Choji Akamichi's belly was puffed out like a frog's, yet he was still stuffing the last half-skewer of mushrooms into his mouth. Obito and Kakashi's bickering gradually turned into mumbled grumbles, and everyone lay on the ground, enjoying the rare tranquility. The starry sky indicated that it was getting late, and everyone returned to their respective homes. Watching everyone leave, Taichi and Kakashi, who was the last to remain, also said their goodbyes. Let's meet again after the next mission. Stay safe. Stay safe. As he neared home, he could see a figure standing in the shadows by his doorstep from afar. Taichi unconsciously placed his hand on the hilt of the sword on his back. Clearly, Danzo's previous surprise attack had left a considerable psychological shadow on him. As Taichi approached, he finally saw that the person was none other than Captain Yamaguchi. Breathing a sigh of relief, Taichi complained, "Captain, you'll scare people to death. Hiding silently in the shadows like that, I almost made a move just now." Yamaguchi Masasuke, stepping out of the shadows, was also puzzled. Taichi's reaction was a bit strong. Logically, for someone of Taichi's age, he shouldn't have such a strong sense of vigilance in the village, unlike those Anbu-trained ninja who are constantly on high alert. However, Captain Yamaguchi didn't dwell on it. Who doesn't have a little secret unknown to others? Taichi, you're back quite late. Were you out training? Captain Yamaguchi's lips curved into a slight smile, ignoring Taichi's complaint. I had a get-together with my former classmates today, so I came back a bit late. He said, opening the door and inviting Captain Yamaguchi. Captain, you must have waited a long time outside. Please come in and sit. No, I came today to give you the mission payment and, incidentally, to issue the village's gag order. You are not allowed to disclose anything about the intelligence ninja we rescued when we returned to the village. Captain Yamaguchi said to Taichi seriously, his previous smile gone. After speaking, he took out a stack of banknotes from his wai and handed them to Taichi. Remember, once a gag order is issued, it must not be violated, or the consequences are not something you want to bear. Taichi nodded solemnly upon hearing this, not daring to be negligent in the slightest. He also had some guesses about the information the intelligence ninja brought back this time. Taking the banknotes from Captain Yamaguchi, Taichi glanced at them and was surprised. Captain, you didn't forget to take your own, did you? Why is there so much? Taichi said jokingly. This is the amount for 2 A-rank missions. The escort mission was elevated to A rank, and the rescue of the intelligence ninja was also deemed an A-rank mission by the village. Captain Yamaguchi explained. Alright, I've given you the money and issued the gag order, so I'll head back now. Remember the gathering time, don't forget. Okay, Captain, take care. Taichi watched Captain Yamaguchi's figure disappear around the street corner before closing the door and returning to his room. Back in his room, Taichi went to his study, recalling all the experiences from today's gathering, especially thinking of Rin's eyes filled with uncertainty about the future, and he made up his mind. When successful, benefit the world. When in adversity, cultivate oneself. Since he had come to the ninja world, he couldn't just manage his own small plot of land. When within his power, he certainly had to try his best to eliminate the tragedies from the original story that had not yet occurred. So, let's start by changing Rin now. Thinking this, Taichi picked up a scroll and wrote down the title of the medical insights he had promised Rin and Shizune today, Basic Explanation of Medical Ninjutsu. Taichi wrote extensively, detailing his entire learning process from when he first started learning medical ninjutsu to mastering the mystic palm jutsu. He meticulously documented all the problems he encountered, the books he read, and his questions and insights, leaving no detail out. Finally, he even included the cultivation methods for healing jutsu and mystic palm jutsu, along with their key points and precautions for practice. Unbeknownst to him, it was already around 12 a.m. Taichi stretched, satisfied with his masterpiece from a night of hard work. Taichi believed that this scroll would greatly assist Rin and Shizune in their medical ninjutsu studies. Taichi carefully put away the scroll, to prevent the undried ink from accidentally smudging. Then he went to wash up and prepare to rest. As for the other scroll, he would just have to find time to copy it tomorrow. In the Uchiha clan compound, at Uchiha Yohei's home. The sounds of shuriken clashing echoed from the courtyard, as two figures sometimes collided and sometimes moved around, seeking an opportunity to strike. It turned out that Yohei was practicing combat with his father, Uchiha Shosuke. At this moment, Yohei's Sharingan had already activated, and a single tomo in his crimson eyes spun rapidly due to the flow of chakra. Yohei once again charged towards his father, the sharp kunai glinting with a chilling light. Their kunai clashed again, but this time, Uchiha Shosuke didn't hold back. Relying on his Junin strength, he easily sent Yohei flying. Yohei, still in midair, hadn't had time to adjust his posture when a figure flashed beside him. His father's large hand had already grabbed his collar, pushing him forcefully to the ground. Lying on the ground, Yohei took several deep breaths, calming his erratic breathing, before standing up with his father's help. Now you know the gap between you and a Junin, don't you? Uchiha Shosuke said to Yohei with a smile. It seemed Yohei's personality wasn't without origin, one could see it from his father. You still want to challenge a Junin. Forget Junin, even a special Junin, you'd be dead if you ran into one. Uchiha Shosuke still looked at Yohei with a smile, but the words he spoke greatly annoyed Yohei. It turned out that when Yohei returned from his mission, he had told his family how difficult the mission was, how he was ambushed by Junin, or had his path blocked by special Junin. In short, he, Yohei, had displayed great power, turned the tide of the mission, and ultimately completed it perfectly. If he hadn't been warned about secrecy by Captain Yamaguchi earlier, he probably would have even blurted out the matter of the intelligence ninja. As Yohei's father, Shosuke naturally couldn't let Yohei be so arrogant and conceited. A loving beating, without mercy, knocked Yohei from heaven back to earth, making him understand his true capabilities. The Taichi Matsushita you mentioned, is he really as you described? You didn't exaggerate, did you? After finishing their combat, the father and son sat kneeling on the tatami mats, leisurely drinking tea. Of course. My own performance was exaggerated, but Taichi's performance, I told the absolute truth, not a single bit of embellishment. Yohei swore solemnly, his expression as if he was about to rip out his heart to show his father. He truly is an amazing child. In the future, he'll likely be another ninja whose name is known throughout the ninja world, Uchiha Shosuke sighed. Get along well with him, these are all your connections. We're good friends. Don't make it sound like I'm deliberately trying to curry favor, Yohei retorted indignantly. Shosuke looked deeply at Yohei and softly said, that's best. Bang bang, came a knock at the door. Yohei, without waiting for his father to speak, sprang up and ran to open the door. Uchiha Shosuke just shook his head, thinking, I wonder who this child takes after. The door opened, and standing at the entrance was another Uchiha ninja. Yohei stared at the person curiously, can I help you? The newcomer carefully scrutinized Yohei, as if confirming something. You're Yohei, right? My name is Uchiha Rin. I've come at the clan head's command to ask you to come for questioning. Me. Yohei pointed to himself, puzzled. Uchiha Rin confirmed with a nod. At this moment, Uchiha Shosuke, hearing the commotion, also came out. After confirming Uchiha Rin's identity, he said to Yohei, since it's the clan head's summons, Yohei, you should go. Remember, be polite. Got it, Dad. I'm off then. With that, he followed Uchiha Rin to the clan head's residence. The current head of the Uchiha clan was Uchiha Fugaku, who would later become Itachi and Sasuke's father. When Yohei met clan head Fugaku, he was in the living room arranging flowers, seemingly cultivating his mind and body. Greetings, clan head, Yohei greeted first. His father's admonition was still fresh in his ears, be polite. Yohei, I hear your Sharingan has awakened, right? Clan head Fugaku had a gentle expression, although to Yohei, that expression was anything but gentle. The name, Fugaku of the Fierce Eyes, was quite well known during the Second Great Ninja War. Yes, clan head. It awakened unconsciously during a battle in my last mission. With that, he vividly recounted the entire incident to the clan head, even revealing the embarrassing fact that he only discovered his awakened Sharingan after Taichi reminded him. Clan head Fugaku listened, stunned. He hadn't even asked, and this child had already blurted out everything, both what he should and shouldn't say. Composing himself, clan head Fugaku said to Yohei, after the Sharingan awakens, there are many unique uses, as well as some secret techniques specifically for the Sharingan. Your family may not have all of them. If you have any questions, you can take my written order to the clan's library to find answers. With that, he took a written order from the side and handed it to Yohei, cautioning him, you can only keep this order for 7 days. If you have further needs after that, it will depend on your contributions to the clan. Yohei joyfully accepted the order, playing with it in his hands. With this, he could learn many unique Uchiha clan ninjutsu. It was just that the time was too short. He wondered how many ninjutsu he could learn. How is your relationship with your teammates? Fugaku asked casually. It's great. We have a life and death friendship, the kind where we'd readily go through hell for each other without regret. Hearing the clan head's question, Yohei snapped out of his thoughts. He then bragged to the clan head about his teammates' prowess and how extraordinarily good their relationship was, mentioning how Taichi even helped him with water walking training during a previous mission, and so on. Fugaku listened quietly. When he heard that Taichi often trained with Tsunade and Jiraiya before, his eyes lit up. This matched the intelligence he had received. Fugaku then exchanged pleasantries with Yohei for a while longer, and then had Uchiha Rin escort Yohei back home. Watching Yohei leave, Fugaku's mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts. A serious trust crisis had always existed between the clan and the village. In the past, Elder Uchiha Kagami could mediate, but now that Elder Kagami was dead, the clan urgently needed to find another ninja to fill that role. And Yohei's relationship with Taichi was the most important reference point. Yohei, who had left the clan head's residence, was still a bit confused, feeling that clan head Fugaku's concern for Taichi was perhaps a bit too much. Upon returning home, Yohei recounted everything he had seen and heard at the clan head's house to his father, only to be met with his father's look of utter disbelief, which greatly annoyed Yohei, but he could do nothing about it. In the end, he only received the admonition to maintain good relationships with your squad members. At the Furukawa residence. After resting well at home following her mission, Sori was also doing her own reflections. Although she had done her best in every task during this mission, Sori felt she was still too far behind compared to Taichi and Yohei. Sori confided her worries to her father, who advised her to fully utilize your abilities. A frustrated Sori racked her brains in her room. Finally, upon seeing the rows of sealing jutsu books on the bookshelf, she had an epiphany. Taichi and Yohei both didn't know sealing jutsu, and this was precisely what she excelled at. With this realization, Sori spent the next 2 days constantly reinforcing her knowledge of sealing jutsu. She also took the opportunity to ask her father for guidance on further sealing jutsu studies while he was home. Watching Sori diligently studying in the study, Sori's parents outside the room showed relieved smiles. For a child to find their sense of belonging within a squad, that was the true mode of interaction for a qualified squad. They felt proud and honored for Sori. Ah, haha, it's finally finished. Tai let out a long sigh of relief, looking at the 2 scrolls on the table. He felt that writing and transcribing scrolls was more tiring than fighting a Jonin. Picking up these 2 hard-earned fruits of his labor, Tai checked the time, which was about right, and then headed out to Training Ground 3. Here, Tai had arranged to meet Rin and Shizune. Along the way, Konoha's prosperity remained, with people coming and going, busy with their own affairs, a vivid picture of human life. Upon arriving at Training Ground 3, something unexpected happened to Tai. He saw Tsunade standing beside Shizune. This was baffling. At this time, Tsunade should either be at the casino or in izakaya, or at least at Konoha Hospital, so why was she here? Perhaps because Tsunade was there. Rin, standing nearby, also looked reserved, not daring to speak. Tai hurried forward to greet her. Aunt Tsunade, I haven't seen you in a long time. You brat, are you trying to say I'm neglecting my duties, and questioning why I'm here? Tsunade said coldly, as if she had seen right through him. Ha, ha, ha. Tai rubbed his head. His black hair was already a mess from racking his brains writing medical notes last night, and now rubbing it back and forth made it even messier. Aunt Tsunade, how could you think that of me? Tai said, glancing at Shizune, who was watching the scene from the side, signaling for her to come to his rescue. Shizune couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle at Tai's awkward expression, but she quickly interjected. Lady Tsunade knew you were going to write medical notes for us yesterday, and she specifically came today to supervise. I never thought an 8-year-old brat would teach medical ninjutsu to others. You really are one who dares to teach, and 2 who dare to learn, Tsunade said in the tone of a senior, lecturing them. If I didn't come to supervise, what if something went wrong? No, it's not like that, Senior Tsunade, Rin Nohara interjected, her voice a little shaky from nervousness, afraid that Tai would be blamed by Tsunade. I proactively asked Tai to teach me medical ninjutsu. It's not Tai's fault. Rin tried hard to defend Tai. It's alright, Rin, Tai comforted her. Aunt Tsunade is just joking. Most of my medical ninjutsu was taught by Aunt Tsunade. I'd be more than happy for her to guide us. With that, Tai took out the already prepared scroll, Basic Medical Ninjutsu explained, from his ninja pouch and handed it to Tsunade. Aunt, please correct me if anything is wrong. HMPH, you brat. Grumbling, Tsunade still took a scroll and examined it carefully. After all, medical ninjutsu is not ordinary ninjutsu. Other ninjutsu, if practiced incorrectly, might at most harm oneself, but medical ninjutsu, if practiced incorrectly, could harm teammates. Moreover, this scroll contained a lot of medical knowledge, so there could be no mistakes. Tsunade's actions fully demonstrated her care and affection for Tai, though she wouldn't say it herself. Seizing the opportunity, Shizune pulled Rin aside and explained the relationship between Tsunade and Tai. Finally, Shizune concluded, in short, they are a strange and special pair of master and disciple. After this explanation, Rin understood why Shizune had laughed at her earlier behavior. It turned out the master and disciple were just playfully bickering, and she had naively taken it seriously. At this moment, Tsunade was staring intently at the scroll in her hand, occasionally calling Tai over to ask why something was written a certain way, or what its purpose was. Her brows went from relaxed at first, to tightly furrowed, and finally to relaxed again. It took a full hour for Tsunade to finish reading all the contents of the scroll. Closing the scroll, Tsunade looked at Tai with a relieved expression. Brat, you can graduate now. This scroll is really well written. Even if I wrote it, it would be at most this level. Tai, who had been nonchalant, immediately straightened up seriously upon hearing Tsunade's words. Tsunade's declaration of his graduation was significant. In the past, Tsunade had never acknowledged Tai as her disciple. This was the first time, and perhaps the last. It's all thanks to my master's excellent teaching, Tai said, also very excited, with tears even shimmering in his eyes. Tsunade's acknowledgement was not only of his identity but also of his abilities. Shizune and Rin, standing nearby, also looked on with envy, as if witnessing the inheritance of Konoha's medical ninjutsu. Alright, let's not talk about that anymore, Tsunade broke the silence first. You two, come here. She waved to Shizune and Rin, who were standing not far away. Once they approached, Tsunade handed each of them one of Tai's scrolls and said, study the contents carefully. Tai wrote it very well, and it's very suitable for you. Yes, I will study hard. X2. If you don't understand anything, you can come to me anytime. I'll teach you whenever I'm free, Tai added. Okay, thank you, Tai. X2. Alright, you two girls go back and study hard. If you don't understand anything, come ask Tai. Tai and I have some things to discuss. Tsunade waved her hand, sending the two girls back. Watching their retreating figures, Tai turned to Tsunade. Teacher, is there something you need me to do? Just walk with me first. Tsunade's voice carried a hint of melancholy. Without waiting for Tai to speak, she walked ahead by herself. Tai watched Tsunade walk away, thought for a moment without success, then stopped thinking and quickly caught up with her. The two walked on and off, passing the hospital, the Hokage office, the academy, and the memorial stone. In front of the memorial stone, Tsunade told Tai about the cruelty of war, the death of Nawaki, and the tragic death of Dan. At this point, Tai realized something was wrong. In the original story, Tsunade left Konoha shortly after the Second Great Ninja War. Tai had initially thought that he, this little butterfly, had changed Tsunade's mind, but it seemed he had only delayed it. This thought made him somewhat dejected. The two eventually circled back and ended up on top of the Hokage rock. Standing at the highest point in Konoha, overlooking the bustling village, the prosperous scene could not dispel the faint melancholy between them. I'm leaving Konoha, Tsunade said directly. Teacher, when are you leaving? I'll see you off, Tai said, a little sad. Aren't you going to ask why? Tai's answer left Tsunade somewhat speechless. Since teacher has said it, she must have thought it through carefully. Persuading her further would be meaningless, Tai replied. You're quite perceptive, unlike some people, Tsunade pouted. You know I developed hemophobia, right? I noticed a long time ago. Teacher, you never perform frontline treatment, and you always seem very nervous when you see blood, Tai explained. Clever brat, Tsunade said. After Nawaki and Dan died, I was already disheartened, and then I developed hemophobia. Tsunade looked blankly into the distance. A medical ninja with hemophobia, isn't that laughable? Tsunade's face was filled with despondency. I had wanted to leave a long time ago. If you hadn't been staking out the casino for medicine that day, I might have already left. Tai looked up at Tsunade in surprise. So, it was that coincidental that day. A day later, and the outcome would have been completely different. Now it's good. To be able to teach you to graduate, I have no regrets at all. Shizune is Dan's niece. I'll take her with me when I leave. When she achieves something, she can return to Konoha. With that, Tsunade took out a storage scroll, formed a hand seal, and with a bang sound, 2 scrolls, one large and one small, dropped out. Tsunade reached out, caught them, and handed both scrolls to Tai. Tai took them, looking at Tsunade in surprise. Of these 2 scrolls, the smaller one contains the medical knowledge and medical ninjutsu you'll need to learn later. I've organized it all for you. The larger one wasn't originally for you, but now you're my disciple, so I'm entrusting it to you for safekeeping. Tai looked at the name on the scroll, the Shikatsu Forest Summoning Scroll. This is the summoning scroll for Shikatsu Forest. Open it first, Tsunade instructed Tai. Tai opened the massive scroll as told. He saw countless names densely recorded from beginning to end, but all of them were dim and faded, until the very last one, which was Tsunade's name. Use your blood to write your name on it too, and then press your handprint, Tsunade said, turning her back to look at Konoha in the distance. Tai gathered chakra at the tip of his left index finger and used a chakra scalpel to make a cut on his right index finger. Using the flowing blood, he wrote his name, Matsushita Tai, in the last column of the scroll, and then pressed his handprint. After doing all this, Tai rolled up the scroll and said to Tsunade, Master, I've finished everything. Hearing this, Tsunade turned around again and saw that Tai had already packed everything, and she gave a self-deprecating smile. Tai, remember, the hand signs for the summoning jutsu are boar, dog, rooster, monkey, ram. Don't get them wrong. Now, you try it. Tsunade stepped back, leaving more space for Tai to perform. Tai was a little excited. These were the summoning beasts of the 3 great sage regions. Only the Konoha Sannin in the entire ninja world possessed them. Now he was one of them. He calmed his mind, used the residual blood on his hand, and gathered about 1/10 of his chakra to form the hand signs. Boar, dog, rooster, monkey, ram. Then he slammed his hand on the ground, summoning jutsu. Bang! Black runes flashed, and after a burst of smoke, a giant slug over 3 meters tall appeared on the spot. Tsunade looked at Tai in surprise. This kid's chakra reserves were not small. The slug's head had 2 long antennae protruding from it, which rotated back and forth between Tsunade and Tai, clearly observing them both. Lady Tsunade, is there something you need me for? The slug's antennae finally locked onto Tsunade, and it asked. Katsuyu, let me introduce you. This is my disciple, Matsushita Tai, and also a contractor of Shikatsu Forest, Tsunade introduced to Katsuyu. Hello, Lady Katsuyu, I am Matsushita Tai. Please take care of me from now on, Tai greeted politely. Katsuyu's 2 eyes turned to Tai, scanning him back and forth as if to remember all of Tai's features. Alright, Tai, but you don't need to call me, lady. Just call me Katsuyu. I prefer that. Alright, Katsuyu, Tai readily agreed. Alright, that's enough for introductions, Katsuyu. You can go back now. Thank you for your trouble, Tsunade interrupted the pleasantries between the human and the beast. Alright, Katsuyu replied, and then turned its antennae towards Tai. Tai, just summon me if you need anything in the future. Without waiting for Tai to respond, it disappeared with a bang. After Katsuyu left, Tsunade continued to instruct Tai, there is only one slug in the entire Shikatsu forest, and that is the slug sage. Every slug we summon is actually a clone of the slug sage. The more chakra you use, the larger the summoned slug will be. You can gradually explore this later. All other matters I need to tell you are recorded on the scroll. You can read it yourself when the time comes. After explaining everything that needed to be said, Tsunade said to Tai, that's all. You don't need to see me off. I'll leave with Shizune myself when the time comes. With that, she waved her hand and slowly walked down the Hokage rock. The faint joy that had just risen was dispersed by the sorrow of parting as he watched Tsunade's receding figure. As if by a ghost's whim, Tai called out loudly, Sensei, come to my place tonight. I'll personally cook you a farewell dinner. Tsunade's footsteps paused. Tai wasn't sure if he was mistaken, but he saw Tsunade make a gulping motion, and her reply, all right, drifted back from afar. Because he had to prepare the farewell dinner, Tai cancelled all his afternoon training and hurried to the market to buy the necessary ingredients. Tai rushed to the market, carrying his shopping bags. Shiny eggplants, bright red tomatoes, plump celery. He carefully selected each ingredient, and as his fingertips brushed the fresh green leaves, he vaguely recalled the first time he cooked for Tsunade. Back then, she'd pounded the table, shouting, another bowl. Completely oblivious to the oil stains on her clothes. Soon, an enticing aroma wafted from the kitchen. The cutting board was piled with shredded daikon as fine as hair, and the flames leaping from the iron wok as he stir-fried made Tai's cheeks flush. He precisely controlled the heat. Golden tempura sizzled in the oil, and miso soup bubbled gently. Just as the last dish, teriyaki eel, was plated, the doorbell rang. Tsunade leaned against the doorframe, her loose robe casually tied, her hair still carrying the scent of sake from an izakaya. Quite the spread, kid, she grumbled, though her eyes were fixed on the feast laid out on the table. The 8 treasure rice balls were shaped into playful frogs, the 3-colored dango skewers looked like a rainbow, and even the simplest pickled daikon was cut into petal patterns. They sat cross-legged at the low table, moonlight weaving silver threads on the tatami through the window lattice. Tsunade grabbed the sake bottle and tilted her head back, gulping it down, the clear liquid running down her neck and into her collar. Jiraiya used to say my rice balls tasted like rocks. She suddenly chuckled, her fingertips tracing the black bean eyes of a frog-shaped rice ball. With your skill, opening a restaurant would make you a fortune. Who knows when I'll get to eat this again, Tsunade said with a hint of reluctance. Then don't leave, Tai said, seemingly casually. Tsunade didn't respond, just quietly ate her food. Tai silently added a piece of eel to her bowl. The fish, coated in amber-colored sauce, gleamed like honey in the candlelight. As Tsunade chewed, her eyelashes cast trembling shadows on her cheeks. The sake bottle emptied and refilled, and the table of delicacies gradually became a mess of empty plates and bowls. As the moon began to set in the west, Tsunade finally slumped over the low table, deeply asleep. Tai quietly walked over and covered her with a thin blanket. He then went to the kitchen to clean the dishes. Before dawn the next day, Tsunade had already risen. Seeing the neatly tidied house, she quietly left Tai's home. The moment Tsunade left the house, Tai also opened his eyes. In fact, Tai had woken up much earlier. He usually woke up even earlier for his training, but he had stayed in bed so as not to disturb Tsunade's sleep. Tai got up, tidied himself slightly, and then headed straight for Konoha's main gate. Unexpectedly, he was still a step too late. Tsunade had already left Konoha village with Shizune. Standing on Konoha's wall, he saw 2 figures, one large and one small, gradually disappearing into the morning light. Perhaps it was Tai's intense gaze, but at that moment, Tsunade and Shizune both turned back and saw Tai standing on the wall in the distance. An excited Shizune waved her arms energetically, and then took out the medical scroll Tai had given her from her ninja pouch, waving it vigorously, as if to say that she would definitely study hard. Tsunade, however, looked at Tai in the distance, smiled slightly, and then waved before turning and pulling Shizune to continue forward. Tai watched their actions from afar, a glimmer of crystal involuntarily appearing in the corner of his eye. Watching their figures disappear into the morning light, he jumped down from the wall, preparing for his upcoming training. Konoha, quiet all night, seemed like a giant beast awakening from slumber. The once quiet streets gradually became bustling with people, but few knew that Konoha's princess had left the village that had given birth to her, raised her, and also hurt her the most, that day. Thanks for watching.